Hey, here are 5 stupid things I've noticed since last time. Media wets its pants over members of Congress doing their jobs. Last week, the U.S. House of Representatives voted to push another government shutdown at least 2 more years down the road by approving what, if it passes the Senate, would be its first proper budget since the year 2009. The news media reacted to this development by declaring it a Christmas miracle, many of them describing it using that very phrase. Is this really how far we've allowed the bar to drop? Our national legislature filleted on the news for carrying out one of its constitutionally prescribed duties? I mean, these people are our elected representatives. They're not nervous children at a piano recital who made it all the way through Fur Elise without fucking up. Actually, if I'm going to go with that metaphor, I guess the filleted on the news bit is kind of inappropriate. Fox News declares Santa forever white. Aisha Harris, an African-American woman who writes for Slate, recently published an article about her childhood confusion over the race of Santa Claus. It seems that despite his popular depiction in our culture as light-skinned, in Harris's home, she was taught that Santa was more of a magical being who could change his skin color to match that of the family that he happened to be visiting at the time. Well, Fox News host Megyn Kelly responded to Harris's mostly light-hearted article by inviting 3 of her fellow white folks onto her show to declare that despite Harris's understandable desire to see people like her represented in our popular cultural celebrations, Santa Claus is just a white guy, and Harris and anyone else who has a problem with that should just get over it. We'll leave aside, for the sake of this discussion, the fact that in order to justify her position, Kelly cited Jesus, a first-century itinerant preacher from Palestine that some of you may have heard of, as also being a white guy. In order to declare Santa Claus as having always been white, Kelly ignores many of the traditional holiday figures that have since been absorbed by our modern concept of Santa Claus, who were anything but white people. Hell, even St. Nicholas himself hailed from Turkey and may have been a lot more dark-skinned than most of us imagined. I mean, was he as dark as Zwarte Piet? I mean, probably not, but then again, who is? Yeah. Catholic school fires gay teacher. Michael Griffin, a gay man, was recently fired from his job as a French and Spanish teacher at Holy Ghost Preparatory, a Catholic private school in Bensalem, Pennsylvania. His employers knew all along that Griffin was gay. In fact, he and his partner had even been over to the headmaster's house. The straw that broke the bigot's back was when Griffin and his partner recently applied for a marriage license in neighboring New Jersey. The headmaster claims that Griffin, like all employees of the school, was retained on the condition that he follow the teachings of the church, which apparently teach that you can have all the gay sex you want as long as you do it out of wedlock. South Carolina sheriff refuses to lower flag for Mandela. Week before last, when Nelson Mandela died, President Obama ordered all U.S. flags to half-staff. Seemed appropriate. Well, not to Rick Clark, sheriff of Pickens County, South Carolina, that is. Sheriff Clark refused to lower the flag at his department to honor Mandela. His reason? He claims that he believes that honor should be reserved for Americans. Never mind that it's not really up to Sheriff Clark, and the president can order the flags to half-staff for pretty much any goddamn reason he wants. Nelson Mandela isn't even the first foreign dignitary to be afforded the half-staff treatment. President Lyndon Johnson ordered flags to half-staff in 1965 after Winston Churchill died, for example, as did President George W. Bush in 2005 after the death of Pope John Paul II. You know, I wonder if Rick Clark had been sheriff in 2005, would he have refused to lower the flag for Pope John Paul II? I mean, I'm sure he would have. Why wouldn't he? Well, I can't think of any reason why John Paul II would be treated any differently than Nelson Mandela. Can you? Speaking of huge assholes and their reactions to Mandela's death, Rick Santorum compares the Affordable Care Act to apartheid. Santorum appeared on the O'Reilly Factor week before last, first to praise Mandela for his struggle against the great injustice of apartheid, then to draw a parallel between Mandela's struggles and the struggle against injustice that we currently face here in the United States, that injustice being particularly the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare. Just two things. First, apartheid was the decades-long institutionalized segregation of and discrimination against blacks by the South African government, and the Affordable Care Act is a law that says if you can afford to buy health insurance and don't have it, you have to buy it or pay a fine. And second, when he was president of South Africa after the end of apartheid, Nelson Mandela signed a new constitution which established health care as a fundamental right for all South African citizens and laid the foundation for the universal health care system that South Africa is currently implementing. Maybe Rick Santorum got Nelson Mandela confused with someone else? Or maybe Rick Santorum is a contemptible sack of shit. I know which I find more likely. The hardest part is only picking five. Catch you next time.